All right, we're gonna give it. All right, let's get started. It's 3:05. All right, guys. Mickey, do you have Yeah, here we
Yeah,
go. Let's do it.
yeah. So today, what we're going to talk about is using ChatGPT in customer success to supercharge process building. And thank you to CS Insider for being a gracious host. Let's cover the agenda really quick. So we're super excited to have everybody. We are going to try to make this interactive today as much as possible. And by the time you leave, here's what you'll have seen and heard. Number one, using frameworks with ChatGPT. So this is a lesser known way of getting amazing results. And it's by far my favorite thing that I've learned how to do with ChatGPT. I'm also going to take you through a live demonstration that applies the framework technique to build a process. And I'm going to use a customer success specific example. And at the end, you're actually going to get a cheat sheet of the prompts that I used today so that you could do this on your own or play around with it and see what you get. And just a quick disclaimer, what today isn't is like a ChatGPT 101, kind of just assuming we've all heard of it, played with it a little bit. So if you're looking for like the real basics, that's not today, but if you want to learn more about that, I'm happy to give you some resources that helped me learn as I was going along. So just by way of introduction, I'm Mickey Powell. I'm one of the co-founders at UpdateAI, and I formerly ran CS operations at Zora. So I come from customer success. My first job was in tech sales, moved to customer success in 2014 before I even knew what that was. And I spent the last almost 10 years actually being really focused on customer success and really excited to be here. And I'll hand it off to John.
What's up, guys? I'm Jon Johnson. I'm with CS Insider. I'm an advisor. Help them kick off a bunch of these programs. I currently work with user testing. We're a UX UI research platform. I've been in customer success for like a decade. Like this has been the thing that I do. I'm a firm believer that growth and retention come directly out of strategy and relationships. I also love technology. I love the way that humans and code intermingle. And this is one of the things that is really exciting to me is how, not that AI is going to replace us, but how it can empower us into letting humans do what humans do best and letting computers do what computers do. I'd love for this to be as interactive as possible. So I know we talked about this at the top end. There's a lot of y'all. So obviously we don't want everyone popcorning questions or whatever. I'm going to be manning the chat, Josh as well. Feel free to ask questions. We're going to use the chat button, not the Q&A or any of the other features. One thing that I did want to call out, when you are chatting, there's a little to thing. Make sure that you're chatting to everyone so that everybody sees your question and everybody kind of experiences the same thing together. We'll do our best to get to questions, but there's definitely going to be follow-up that all y'all have. And we'll make sure that there's avenues for you guys to both inform yourself on what's coming next and where we're going with these tools. So I'm excited. I'm just going to be peppering Mickey with a bunch of questions, and we're going to kind of walk through this together. Let's go.
Awesome. Thank you. So I just dropped a link in the chat. I do want to talk a little bit about UpdateAI, the company I'm with, and what we do. So we're trying to take the pain out of everyday meetings for customer success managers. We know that this time and age, there's a lot of burnout, burden. You guys are working super hard, being asked to do more with less. And UpdateAI actually integrates with Zoom to provide you with a smart summary of your meeting, action items, risks, the meeting notes. We'll even help you send a follow-up email, and we'll even push it into Salesforce or HubSpot. Now, the best part about all of this is there's no bot. It actually uses the Zoom native recording, and it's free for you guys to use. So I dropped a link in the chat. Please feel free to sign up. It's free for you guys. And that's our way of showing how much we care about helping customer success. So just really quick, just to kind of get us in the spirit here, I'm curious, how many of you have used ChatGPT to build or edit or create something at work? Feel free to just pop in the chat. Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Got lots of yeses. I know I mean, I use this all the time at work at UpdateAI. I definitely plan on using it, moving forward. And I'm sure somebody will ask, yes, I pay for the ChatGPT Plus.
Ooh, that's a flex.
It's 20 bucks a month. I
I know it's
mean,
nothing. It's really nothing.
Oh, let's come on back here. There we go. Awesome. So, if I were to guesstimate, I'd say a good 50 or more % of us have used it at some point. So that's really awesome. And I hope that after today, you will want to use it more and you'll see some ways you can apply it more to your work. So let's jump right in. So using frameworks with ChatGPT. So in the countless hours that I have played with this tool, I noticed that ChatGPT is really amazing when you tell it to use a framework with a specific context. Now, a specific context that might be like customer success, right? Like that's the world that I operate in, a lot of us operate in. And that's where I get the most potential out of the tool. But what is an established framework? So you all already know about a lot of different frameworks. There's thousands of them that we use daily, whether it's like to-do lists or the 5 W's, who, what, when, why, where, or even a budget, for your house. But what makes ChatGPT better when it works with frameworks? Put really simply, it's because these frameworks, they're really well documented on the internet. That's where ChatGPT has been trained extensively. So put another way, ChatGPT has tons of practice, tons of knowledge of these different established frameworks. And that's what like ChatGPT is basically doing all day, every day, is it's learning about these different things online. And if you don't believe me, here's this guy, Chase Demons. This guy has 183,000 followers on LinkedIn. And he posted 2 months ago his top 5 ways of using ChatGPT. And in every single one, he's using a framework. So use this framework, use this framework, use this framework. So he's got 183,000 followers. He posted online. It must be true. So today we're going to use an established framework that's ChatGPT's strength, plus a specific context like customer success, which is my strength and a lot of your strengths, to get the best results. So how does this apply to customer success? Why should we care? So if you work in a customer success org, you know that things are constantly changing. And with all that change, you need to build processes that are thorough and fast, because if you miss something, if something changes and falls through the cracks, it can be not only really frustrating, but it can lead to more problems. So, like I said, I come from customer success operations, most recently Azora. And when it came time for me to build a process, I would usually go for being thorough over being fast. So I felt it was better to go slow and get it right the first time and not have to rework a process over and over and over again. But this could be really frustrating for me, for my colleagues. It would just take too much time. But ChatGPT, thankfully, has really changed a lot about that. And that's what I want to talk to all of you about today and show you how to use this. But we need a framework. So we're going to use SciPoc from Six Sigma. And don't worry, you don't need to memorize this. What you do, all I want you to know really is that this is a process optimization framework. It was actually invented for car manufacturing back in I think the 60s or the 70s by Toyota. And what it stands for is suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, and customers. But let me give you an example you probably all know really well. Making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. John, do you like PB&J?
If my daughter wasn't allergic to peanuts, I would have them every single day. So we have sunflower, which is not the same. Yeah. It's just it's so depressing.
Hey, sunflower. I just have to know, you chunky or smooth, if you could.
Oh, smooth, 100% smooth.
No, chunky. Sorry, I think we need to end here. So when you're making people are getting riled up in the chat over PB&J. I love it. peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So to create one or any sandwich is you gather your ingredients, you apply peanut butter to one side, jelly to the other, or both to one side if you're a psychopath, and you assemble and eat the sandwich. And what SciPoc does, this framework that was invented for car manufacturing, but apparently applies to peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, SciPoc breaks down all the component parts, all the things that you need to figure out in order to run this process effectively. Your supplier, that's a grocery store. Your inputs, what you need to run that process. You've got a knife, you've got jelly, you got peanut butter, bread, a plate. That process produces the output, which is a sandwich. And you have your customer, that adorable little girl on the right-hand side. Or if you're hungry and you're like, I don't want to give it to this girl, you could eat it yourself. So now that you know a little bit about the framework that we're going to use and the specific context, we're going to use SciPoc with this specific context of an executive sponsor change, and this is how we're going to get results. So today's scenario, what we're actually going to do is build an executive sponsor change process. John, could you maybe tell everybody just 2 sentences about what an executive sponsor change is in case they don't know?
Yeah, of course. So with customer success and any type of business deal, having somebody that is of a decision maker or leadership skills within an organization is pivotal in getting a deeper relationship with the customer. So for instance, if you have a person of senior level that changes roles, changes jobs, leaves the company, going through any type of change management process, there is a set of steps that you need to go through to either find the new relationship, build the new relationship, continue documentation of who this person is. We need executive sponsorships when it comes to, it's similar to like a recommendation on LinkedIn, to make sure that they're advocating for your tool and your product within their organization, and they have adequate enough leadership and support within their organization to carry weight with their suggestions.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
I did read your script.
Nice. So that's the scenario we're going to focus on today. This is really common with a lot of customer success orgs, that they need to have something around this. So let's pretend that my boss comes to me and says, hey, we need an executive sponsor change process, and I need the first draft of it tomorrow. And he screams at me, and I go home and I cry a little bit, and then I realize I've got to get to work. And what he wants in that process is the actual process broken down, the steps. He wants email templates for all the different points that need to be communicated. He wants a meeting agenda for when we get that executive sponsor on the phone. And he wants a training plan for all the customer success managers so that they can learn how to run this process. So I'm not gonna lie, if I did this on my own, this would probably take me 16 or more hours, like 2 days if I was doing nothing else. So let's do a live building of this process in ChatGPT, because I'm pretty sure that's what you guys all pretty much want to see. So I'm going into ChatGPT right now. As you can see, I have ChatGPT Plus. It's not a flex, John.
No, I'm just cheap.
Yeah, you will stop being cheap. So, you know, when you cook, John, you're like, you need to preheat the oven, right? Like you're getting everything ready. You need to get the oven up to temp. So that's actually the first thing I'm going to do with ChatGPT. So I'm actually going to tell it, I'm going to ask it, what is SciPoc from Six Sigma? Because for those that aren't aware, and Jeffrey, I'm actually using 3.5 because it's faster than 4. So I'm actually going to ask ChatGPT to tell me what it is, because ChatGPT has memory. So as you're talking with it, it can remember and reference back to the conversation. So I want to have that stored in memory to make sure it knows the framework that we're using.
Could I also just make one point, because I think this is important too, is that you're also defining the type of output that you want. So you're asking it a question, and then you're training it on the type of output that you want. And I assume you're going to be referencing these at a later date.
Yeah. So I just, visually, it looks better to me. It's easier to follow along. It's also easier to follow along for all of you. Yeah. So yeah, you can include this little output in Markdown with headings and subheadings just to make it just more visually appealing. I also have, just anecdotally, I feel like it gets better I get better results when I tell it to do that. So it's told us about SciPoc. It's like, hey, this is what it stands for, how it's used, how to create one. This is all great content. And if you want, to learn about this, this is actually a good way for you to educate yourself as well. So now we have the framework, but we need to apply the specific context. So I'm going to paste in here, what is an executive sponsor change in the SaaS industry? And I tell it specifically, hey, I'm a customer success manager. And same thing, output in Markdown. So now it's giving me all of this details about the executive sponsor changes. So again, this is like warming up the oven, I'm getting it ready. I haven't even really started building the process yet. I just want to get it in the right frame of mind, for lack of a better term, even though, there is no actual mind here. So it's produced all this great content. Okay, awesome. And you may, this actually may be something you could use in training others or communicating this to others. So let's start building the process. So I'm going to tell it to use SciPoc to create a process for dealing with an executive sponsor change. So now it starts to take all of that detail and turn it into the SciPoc model, because that's the framework that I want it to produce. So we have our suppliers, hey, our customer, and the new executive sponsor. They're going to give us what we need in order to know that there was a change, who the new person coming in is. The customer success manager is probably the one that can give us details about like what their prior objectives were and the project were. John, you probably have some sort of document for your customers, right? Where you
exactly.
keep track of the different things.
Yep.
And then we have some inputs. So we need a notification of the sponsor change. We need to know that it happens. We need the historical account information. So this is what John was referencing. And we need some communication plans. And then it gives us the process steps. So, hey, we get a notification. We review historical information, goals, priorities, patterns, identify the new executive sponsor, reach out, adjust our strategy based off of the new executive sponsor and what they need, develop a plan, and then monitor usage and stay engaged. Great. Looks like a pretty reasonable plan. I'm also just going to call out for the record, I very much see this as like, give me the starting point to like edit down and make variations off of. I am not going to take everything at face value. So, okay, great. We have all this really good information, but I'm a little bit more of a visual person. I don't know about you, John. And so I'm going to tell ChatGPT to give me more of like a spreadsheet of just the process steps, so that like if I need to throw this on a document, I have like a really clean version of the process steps, because usually that's what's most important. And for those out there that use a customer success tool like Gainsight, Catalyst, Vitally, what have you, these would probably go into the relevant playbook that you build for that process. Okay, so now I'm sitting there panicking, thinking, okay, I built this, but we need email templates, right? So we got to get a meeting with the executive. John, I don't know about you, but when I email executives, they don't generally respond.
I don't remember the last time I got a direct response from an executive that I sent an email to.
Well, it's probably because you and I both are terrible at writing. And
hey, wait a minute. Whoa, I'm going to fight you on that one. No, but I continue.
But there's some tricks, right? There is some tricks to make it more attuned for the audience. And this is one of the things that got a lot of attention early on with ChatGPT. And Jeffrey, don't worry, I'm going to give you guys a cheat sheet with all the prompts, so you'll be able to see in the order that I'm presenting them. So write an email to the new executive introducing myself. And we're going to give it some instructions, things like be concise and direct. I don't know if there's any executives on the phone. My guess is all of you want concise, direct communications. So we can even add some additional conditions like keep it under 100 words, keep it short. Also, I know that I'm creating this for CSMs. They might have a calendar link. So just go ahead and include a token for the CSM calendar link. So if I go and build that into a system somewhere, it's already there. So let me go ahead and do this. I also like to add, don't add fluffy phrases like I hope this finds you well, because like, does anybody ever want that? I don't know about you, John.
Um, so I am all fluff, and maybe that's why nobody responds to my emails. I do want to say though, just for the UT crowd on the call right now, this is the process that we followed for sending out a lot of our emails for invites around some of our recent events. Hey Eric, I got you on audio. Can we get you to mute your call real quick? Thank you so much. I love it.
And one other thing that I added in here to try to, because this is a new executive, they may not know about our product. I added this like framework of a before and after. So like before is a common business problem. And yeah, I might make some tweaks to this copy. I don't know if this is 100% ready to go, but the CSMs, I don't want them to have to worry about like solving pain points, figuring out how to communicate to them. Just go with what you already know about the pain that you're solving for this customer, what the before and after was. And that's the best way to start to communicate with an executive, get them bought in that this is something that they want to do, and to schedule time with you. But we also have our internal teams, right? We got people, account executives, leaders, they all want to make sure that they know what's going on. So let's draft an internal meeting, or sorry, an internal like notice. So again, keep it short, under 100 words, use simple terms. So we don't want, we don't need to add a bunch of fluff, really long words. I do this all too often where I'll say something that sounds smart and all I'm doing is, making myself seem smarter, but I'm actually dumber. So this, you can again build into the process. CSMs, hey, just let the team know, here's a template for it, making their lives a little bit easier. And hey, John, have you ever been on a call without a meeting without an agenda?
Most of my meetings are sans agenda, Mickey, including the one that you scheduled right before this. Thank you very much.
That was Josh. That was Josh. So I have been given tough feedback at times to make sure I have an agenda. So I'm going to make sure we have a meeting agenda for this. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, prepare a meeting agenda. And I want you to cover these things: capabilities, current objectives, goals, obstacles, work streams. I also want you to include 3 discovery question examples for the CSM, because they're going to need to do some digging. John, everybody has different priorities, needs, metrics, right? So a new executive, you probably have to go through that again with them.
Exactly.
So let's see what it came up with. What are your top priorities for product? Awesome. What are the biggest obstacles you're facing, and how do you measure success? I'd say that those are great questions that we want to know the answers to, right?
Absolutely.
So now we have our agenda. We have even more detail. So like if you want to give this in like an info doc, you can say, here you go. So we've got our meeting agenda. Let's say meeting goes great. We have that meeting perfect. We need to send a follow-up email. That's the 3rd of the email templates we need to create. So again, be concise and direct, keep it under 100 words. I use this framework of start, stop, keep. You could use different ones, but I just like this of like, hey, we're going to start doing this, we're going to stop doing this, and we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, this is incredibly valuable. So the thing that I also just kind of want to add some color to, just as a customer success manager, as somebody that hears all the news about AI taking our jobs, the point here is less, I don't want to do a job. It is the time that you spent writing this email is better spent in a meeting with your executive. It is better spent exploring the outcomes of a conversation. So what we're looking at is operationalizing and adding process to how do we get these people on calls? How do we get people into the room so that we can actually explore value? Because your time as a CSM, the money that you're getting paid, should not be spent writing emails. I'm sorry, that's just not the value that you're adding as a human being with a creative, strategic mind. So how do we continue this process to just get people in the room so that we can emphasize what we are here for?
Exactly. That's, I think, going to be one of the biggest shifts of ChatGPT and these types of technologies. It's going to take away the things that are not the highest and best productive use of your time. And actually, the last prompt, the last thing to tie this all together is something that I've done a lot and is really, really hard and time consuming. And that's turning this into a training plan.
Yes.
So when I was at Zora, there was 40 customer success managers all over the globe. And that also meant I had to do multiple training sessions, which sometimes were brutal, 6 a.m. chatting with our folks in EMEA and Chennai, India. But to create an hour of training content, for those that didn't know, 1 hour of training content takes about 40 hours of development. So I'm going to take everything that we just made, and I'm going to write out the basics of a training plan. So I'm actually using another framework here called Webb's Depth of Knowledge. Again, it's not something you need to memorize. Really what Webb's Depth of Knowledge is about is level 1 is when you can understand something at the most basic, like you can recall it. You can just say, hey, I know this. And then as you get up the levels all the way to level 4, it's like applying it to a novel situation. So like as you learn to drive, it's like, you know what a car is versus you know how to drive on the street versus you know how to drive in rain, etc. So this whips up a training plan. I can take this to the customer success team and I can say, hey, today here's what you're gonna learn. The steps of the process of dealing with an executive sponsor change, the key components of the process, all the things that you need to know, the activities, your resources, what you have at your disposal. And then we're gonna have another session about applying the process, actually dealing with it in the real world, identifying potential challenges and obstacles. We can role play, and again, your additional resources. So we just did in, 10, 15 minutes, what would probably take me or somebody like me multiple days, if not weeks, to create, just to get to this draft. Now, of course, you need to add in some additional context. There's maybe some specific things for your company. We would need to put this into like a presentation and visuals and things like that. But to get to this point with this fast, I cannot overstate how excited this makes me about helping all of you get to the things that you're better at, that humans are better at: strategic thinking, creative thinking, all of those things.
Let me ask you a question, Mickey, and also throw us in the chat too. But like, as a CSM, like obviously we think about how we're talking to customers, but legitimately, like a good portion of what we do is documentation, right? A good portion of what we do is update processes of writing notes, of adding, I'm in Confluence all the time when it comes to what we're doing with our accounts, right? Mickey, from your experience, like what's the number one reason people don't update their documents? It takes time, right?
It takes too much time.
So then 9 months later, you've changed your process 15 times and nobody knows what the you're doing, right? So this is getting to the point where in a perfect world, like at the end of every process that you've changed, US CSMs are going in and updating your Confluence articles, or updating your notes into Tango or Salesforce to show what you've done, so that not only is it repeatable, but it is also scalable, because we're getting into an economy right now where we absolutely have to do better with what we have, not more with less, better with what we have. And this is allowing us to apply the standard processes of high level thinking of what do I need to do, and focusing on what do I need to do, instead of, okay, now I just need to type out level 1 and level 2 and write out this training doc and all this kind of stuff. So it gets you to that point of, I've updated my documentation. I'm now going to share this with my team. And now the 10 people on my team are following a process that has been proven, and they're going through their own processes of figuring out where the value is with their customers.
Yeah.
Scalability for the win. Erica gets it.
That's right. So that's it for the live demonstration part. I'm happy to, of course, answer questions. And, we have time to go deeper on this stuff, but this took less than 10 minutes. Process, emails, meeting agenda, training plan. So now at the point where like a lot of companies that don't have CS operations, or if you're a manager or a director or VP and you're trying to build out processes for your team, like this is all stuff that you can do, but it just takes a lot of time. So leverage these tools. $20 a month is a small price to pay for the amount of time savings that you can get. And there's also creativity there, because one thing I didn't show you guys that I use a lot is I tell ChatGPT to like, tell me what I might be missing. Like, help me expand my perspective. And, it's not always perfect, but a lot of times it'll give me an answer that I didn't think of on my own much faster. So just to kind of recap what we learned today. So using frameworks with ChatGPT, we talked about SciPoc, but there's so many frameworks out there. But I really want to encourage you to think about the things you do and what are the frameworks that you use, and can they work with ChatGPT? Because ChatGPT gives you better results when you use frameworks. And we did a live demonstration applying that. I'm going to actually drop in the chat here right now a cheat sheet for all of you with all the prompts that I used in order today. Please feel free to use this, share this, spread it wide. And you can email me if you have thoughts, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts. And I would love to connect with you all on LinkedIn. I know Josh dropped it in the chat earlier. Yeah, Ken, I got your back. Don't worry. You're furiously taking notes. So I would love to connect with you all on LinkedIn. I do post about ChatGPT and customer success. I also will tease that I am writing an ebook on ChatGPT for customer success, including some prompts that I did not include here today, and some ways of using it. So Josh doesn't know how to spell my name. My name is not Mikey, it's Mickey. It's all right, folks. He's only my boss.
He doesn't need to know.
Yeah, right. So that's it. I'm happy to stay on and answer questions. But thank you all for coming. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we had just like a few minutes to go off presentation mode and just kind of pull up some cameras. I know we got a lot of folks on here. I know a good portion of Jared Farmer, man, I love you. It's so good to see you. I wanted just to take a few moments to kind of ask some questions. Now, again, I really want to hone this in on not so much ChatGPT 101, but let's focus on some of the questions around strategy, around examples of how one might use it, kind of a little bit of a brainstorming session. Does anybody have any questions they want to come off mute? The only rule is that if you speak, please turn your camera on. We want to see who you are. Erica's got a question. She's going to raise her hand first, and I know that it's going to be good because she's brilliant.
Thank you, John. First of all, thank you both. This was completely mind-blowing. Like, I've never thought about using frameworks while doing my prompts, and using the one from Six Sigma. I think it was I don't know, just mind-blown. Thank you for that. My first question is, which other frameworks would you think work best for customer success? The reason, or the main reason, that I'm using ChatGPT right now is basically to service email templates and things that I see that are very repetitive for me and for my team, and kind of like brainstorming ideas. And the prompts are good, but what I saw today, like I just couldn't. I didn't know that I could do that. So any other frameworks that you could share, that would be great. Just to play around with it.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm going to send you all the copy of the ebook when it's ready, hopefully in the next month. There'll be more there. That's going to be free. So just wait there. But a few things I've played around with that I've had some surprising success. One of them is success plans. Mm-hmm. So we all, success plans are kind of like the thing we all have to do or know we need to do, and they're really hard, and they take time and effort. So success plans are actually underlying a very well-established framework. Like, you have an objective, you have a measurement criteria, you have obstacles. Those are all things that are well documented, especially in the business world. So one of the things I've done, and I did this actually with a customer of UpdateAI, I plugged in their success plan and I asked ChatGPT to evaluate it on a scale of 1 to 100 and to tell me why. It gave it score, and it spit back. It was like, hey, your measurement criteria wasn't specific enough. You didn't have a specific enough deadline on this obstacle. So then I made some changes to the success plan, and I asked it again, and it gave me a higher score. And I asked it to tell me specifically what I changed. And it told me specifically what I changed. So as my leader hat comes on, and I say, holy shit, this can
This is
help.
powerful.
Yeah, this can help my team write better success plans in a very natural conversational way.
Yep.
That's one area that I really like.
Yeah. The other thing
Thank you.
that I like to say, Erica, is, and I know that this gets a little complicated because a lot of people are looking for a direct answer. The specific framework is the one that you're comfortable with. So there are so many out there. I know I work with a lot of UX researchers, and whether it's Double Diamond or Hook or Agile, like it's what they are trained on and what they know best. So if there's a specific framework that you understand, that's the input model, right? So we're looking at it from, it's the brain, and what all that you're doing with these tools is saying, I'm going to give you data and I want you to give it to me in a human readable format, right? And then you're going to give it the format. So that's what this framework is, right? So if there is a specific framework that you understand, then utilize that framework that you're most comfortable with, and you're going to get an output that follows a lot of the same processes that we've been going through, but in a way that does because there's so many frameworks out there, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. A couple other questions. Okay, Scott, we're going to go Scott, then we'll go Danielle and Philip. So Scott, you're first.
Hey, John. Thanks. And you were right about Erica. She was spot on asking a very similar question to what I wanted to ask, although the term frameworks, at the risk of sounding like a total green noob here, is a new term to me. So do you guys have a recommendation of where I can go to kind of pick through frameworks as they apply to customer success?
Yeah, I mean, Six Sigma is a great repository. That's a great just overall thought leader. Again, there's so many. I think that there's a good follow-up on some frameworks. Make sure that you're following CS Insider. We put out a lot of resources around thinking and kind of high-minded stuff. I don't know. Mickey, do you have like a specific like resource for where to go to understand frameworks?
Well, I'm not going to lie. You should actually go into ChatGPT and ask it, give me 10 examples of common frameworks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a little hint. The slide where I told you guys of like some common ones, guess who gave me the list that I pulled from?
Was it Josh Schachter?
It was Josh Schachter GPT 3.5.
ChatGPT genius.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Great question, Scott. Danielle, what you got for us? From Manchester, UK. I love it.
Hello. It's less of a question, more of a, I suppose. So when I started to use ChatGPT, same as you guys, I was like, this is amazing. It can really help me speed up my processes, especially with, success plans and things like you've been mentioning today. But when I spoke to my boss about it and I was explaining, actually, somebody said that we don't have a few policies from our sales department. They said, look, in Slack, they were saying, a client's asked for these policies. We don't seem to have them. So I mocked a few policies up on ChatGPT and said, look, these are drafts I've got from ChatGPT. Maybe they're a good start. And the actual response I had from my boss was a bit like, well, we wouldn't expect people to be doing our work, kind of automated. We want it all to come from you. And we kind of know what your voice sounds like. We would know if it's written by someone else and not you, or almost like a plagiarism type feeling. And I just wondered, how has anyone else come up against this, and how would you kind of answer that? Because it made me almost feel a bit ashamed that I was using it, when for me I thought, well, actually it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mickey.
I'm gonna say my short answer is that, like, definitely whatever context, specific scenario, you need to know that if you're giving an answer, you're responsible either ethically or legally for making sure that is accurate. If it doesn't matter, like it's a funny joke that you're telling to your spouse,
I get a lot of haikus. I use it for a lot of haikus.
But yeah, I don't like the plagiarism thing. I think is an interesting topic. I actually read a lot about it and arguments on both sides. But I think the important thing is, like, if you're going to produce something, you need to know that there could be ramifications. Luckily, I'm not a lawyer, so like I'm not in a position to put something out there that could get us in a lot of hot water. But that is a really, really important thing to consider.
Yeah. And again, so this is, I know that everybody that's working with AI is saying the same thing. We're not we're not saying remove all humans. We are advocating for human plus, right? This idea that it's going to give us a template, a framework, a guidepost. And I really love what you said, Mickey. I don't think that it could be stated enough that when you send that email, you're responsible for what comes back. And if you cannot justify it, if you send in a report to your boss and he goes, hey, can you tell me about this? And you just go, like it's the same thing as your best friend writing a report or somebody like there is no difference. I don't know about plagiarism. I don't know about all that kind of stuff, but make sure that the work and the effort that you're putting into these outputs, you stand behind, because this is your name and this is the business that we're building together.
So,
right, Philip. Oh, Mickey.
I was going to say one last thing, and we'll pass it to Philip. Not to get too philosophical, but we all learned from somewhere. So, like, what is plagiarism? I don't know. This opens up a whole new philosophical debate. But with that, I'll kick it to Philip.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Philip, what is plagiarism?
No, that my question will kind of feed into that. Before I get into the question, like 2 pins and things that you guys previously said, I dropped it in the chat, like a comment, but I can send the link. It's really, this ChatGPT stuff is really all about the prompts. So like I've been able to add a small prompt to those frameworks that will iterate and add, like give me suggestions and then ask me a couple of questions that I can then put in like 1, 2, 3, 4 and give it its feedback, and it will improve my prompt and then do the framework all over again and iterate that process and continually make it better. 2, you can also ask it for industry specific metrics, and it will start giving you metrics that you can ask your customers that they may not even know about to track. So you can like get that credibility and help there. But that also leads to my question, which is the hyper confidence of ChatGPT and it not being connected to the internet, it being based on like stuff from 2021.
Historical data. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and you can't ask it things like use cases, because it will give you a use case for sure, but it's could be completely fictional. So like you have to be very careful, to your point about like asking them about frameworks, unless you know those frameworks that you're basing them on, because it could give you things like, tell them to do this in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks or things like that. And that's not necessarily true or to the case. So like you have to be very careful about that. So that's my question. Like, what
there's an important distinction here, is that AI is not ethical or unethical. Like it is not making a decision that is based on what we as humans carry in our moral judgments, in our experiences. It is data driven, right? So it is only as good as the input that is coming in. So like I said, we can get really deep into the models, but what is training these models is just as important to inform yourself on. Philip brought up a really important note that this is, as of right now, this is not live connect. I mean, I know people are building apps around live connections to the internet, but ChatGPT is a data model, meaning it is not Ultron scanning the internet, looking for reasons why Captain America is a villain. Right? It is looking at data sets that are presented in a way that it is consuming in a silo. What is included in that silo is your best guess, right? So we're not asking an AI model to solve problems for us. We are looking at this as a tool to build frameworks and processes that are then validated and trusted by humans. So a lot of this stuff that you talk about, it gets really dicey when you just say, hey, write an email that sells them something, and then you copy paste and send. Like you're not going to succeed that way, right? Like there's going to be people that do that. There's going to be CSMs that just look at this as a shortcut and they move into their next step of saying, okay, well, I checked all those boxes. I updated my Salesforce. I did all this. I can go play Xbox for 4 hours, right? This has the opportunity to make us much better, but also it has an opportunity to identify those of us that maybe need to focus on maybe some different skills. Does that make sense? All right. Mike Larson has a question. What's up?
No, I was just going to share some experiences of how I've been using it. I've only been using it for like a week, but in my segment, we just due to our growth and we're just always, this is a common scenario that we're all in where we get account transitions. And one of the struggles that I've had is understanding exactly what does this company do, because it's a brand new company to me. Something that I've been doing recently is just asking ChatGPT, what does X customer do? And what are their current initiatives and projects that are happening right now? That it's bullet points out 10 things. Then to take it a step further, again, I want to put an emphasis that this isn't live data. It's capped at 2021 for now, but something that's been really helpful, even just for past initiatives, because initiatives are years-long projects, right? But to take it a step further, I've asked GPT to summarize, if it's a public company, to summarize earning calls based on major initiatives and areas of investment, as well as technology infrastructure. And
This
it
is
has
something
been
that
a
I do.
game changer.
Yep. I'm glad you I saw you threw that in the chat, because this is one of the things. So I work in key strategic accounts. Philip, I know you're working on some of the big accounts too at user testing. Man, every time earnings come out, like you've got your book of business and you say, can you summarize, and then give them your companies, the companies that you manage. What are their key initiatives? Where are their risks? Where are their opportunities, right? And you've got a data sheet that when you're leaning into, to use Mickey's example, right, of an executive sponsor, when you get on that call, do you know how many like 10Ks I've read through? Do you know how many times I've read through like Amazon's reports that are 87 pages long and, searching for keywords? Like, this makes the research process so much more streamlined and allows the value to bubble up instead of the effort of finding that value. Juan Antonio, my man, you gotta turn your camera on if you're gonna ask a question. What up, buddy? You're muted.
Sorry, I'm dialing from back home right now. I'm on like a little vacation. So
Nice.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, John.
Hey, buddy.
Quick question here. So, I mean, I just landed a new role and I want to get my feet running off the ground right away. So one of the reasons that when I was using ChatGPT was to kind of like give me a feedback loop, right? So how do you think about ChatGPT as a, IC trying to get better? You have your KPIs, your goals, and your metrics. How do you use ChatGPT to kind of give you like a feedback loop so you can keep yourself accountable, keep yourself, progressing to the next level?
Yeah.
Just thoughts on that.
Yeah, Juan, that's a great question, and kudos to you, man, for wanting to get better. So 2 things that I do pretty consistently with ChatGPT. Number 1, if I'm working on something, I mentioned this earlier, I will tell ChatGPT to tell me what I'm missing, or like what's a different perspective on this topic. And a lot of times it will show me something or tell me something that I'm like, okay, I hadn't thought of that. I might have if I spent another hour or 2 thinking about it or went and read a book. The second thing is really good is you can ask it to expand on things and to give you like reading materials. In the ebook I'm writing, one of the prompts one of like the use cases is crafting a personal development plan. You can tell, and anybody here, you could try this, tell ChatGPT what you're good at, what you're not good at, and you want to get better at, and ask it to give you like a development plan, and ask it to give you suggested reading. Like what are things, and then once it gives you suggested reading, if it's a really common book, you could ask it to summarize that book for you. And what are the key points? And so you can start to explore, and again, don't take everything it says at face value. If it's telling you to go read a book and it's summarizing it, it's probably pretty spot on, but you still want to maybe go read the book or listen to, an interview with the author or what have you. But I'm doing this to get better. Somebody mentioned Excel earlier. I've tried, I've used it to I can't figure out this gosh darn formula, like help me, because sometimes Googling for formulas is not super helpful.
No, it's good. It's honestly it's truly like your own assistant to teach you and train you the things that you don't know. And I love using it to I don't know if y'all do this before, but before ChatGPT, I use tools like Grammarly. There's another writing app called Hemingway app that I use all of the time. When I'm writing an email, I'll just word vomit everything out. This is how I type, by the way, ergonomic. And then I'll throw that into one of these apps and it'll highlight, it's like, this is a run-on sentence, John, you have to get better at this. And then you can edit from there. And it just kind of highlights the things that you need to focus on so that you can make it clearer. One of the things that I love doing, so every month I write an executive review for our key accounts to all of our leadership, our C-suites. And then this is like a big freaking paragraph, multiple paragraphs of emails, right? That I then throw into ChatGPT to say, summarize for a 3rd grader. Like what? And then I give it the framework and the output. And then I have my little bullets that I send into Slack when I'm saying, this is what I'm focusing on when I'm talking to my boss, or bring it. We have some transition. We're going through an acquisition. So we have some new people coming in. And this has been an incredible tool when somebody says, what do you do here? Right. In an honest way to say, well, here's 75 documents. It's like, no. No, I'm going to summarize all this for you. I'm going to give you a little output, right? A little readout. So the key here is that it should change your behavior. It should change the things that you do. If you look at it and you go to it as a service and you say, write this for me, what am I missing? All of these wonderful prompts. And it doesn't change the way that you think about what you're putting in, you're missing a ton of value, right?
Yes.
It's about how many inputs and how you continue to train the data that you're putting in. So with every prompt, with every question, with every webinar that you go, you should be learning something new and reacting to the data that it's putting out. Somebody said earlier, this is a threaded conversation with an AI tool, right? So it builds on each other. This is not a blank slate situation where you come in without context. The power with these tools comes when you build upon context. We got 5 minutes left. Thank you guys so much for being here. This was so much fun. I'm going to drop a little link to CS Insider. If you're unfamiliar, we do a ton of content. We do a ton of resources. Here is our link. We would love for you to sign up for our services. We do webinars every single month. We talk very, very diligently about customer success as an industry from a resource standpoint and how we can get better. I would love to continue having these conversations on LinkedIn. Everybody can kind of throw your stuff in the chat. We'll reach out with you with the recording. I learned how to save a chat just recently, which is super fun. Mickey, thank you so much for coming on board. This was so much fun. Actually, Mickey, Josh, and I and another colleague in the space have a podcast that's coming out that we're pretty stoked on that we're doing together. So more to come on that. But with that, I'm going to end it, and I'm going to go
you,
drink
everybody.
another can of LaCroix. We love you all, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks,
Hey,
everybody.
John,
Whoa, what's up?
I know, I just realized I should have dropped our new podcast episode. This came out.
Is it out? Put it in there. Do it.
Yeah, I can't believe I just didn't do that. All right, everybody,
Okay.
we do, when the CS Insider report comes out, we now have a roundtable discussion about all the articles that are in that report. So it's live, it's fresh, and we just dropped it like 2 hours ago. So I just sent the link in the chat, and it's right there. That's the first episode on top.
Yeah, so if you want to hear me talk more and also mispronounce Mickey's name on the podcast like we did on this call, it's great. It's going to be wonderful. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you again. Enjoy your Thursday, and let's get after it. Okay, guys?
Bye. Thank
everybody.
you.
I'm going to hang out for a little bit while y'all go, if anybody's kind of like dragging feet. Love that. Perfect. All right, guys, we're canceling. We'll see you guys around. Thank you.